Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode, the discourse on personality and competency. The last episode, we achieved another milestone in the discussion of personality, in the evolution of the concept of personality. I call it evolution because even my perspectives are changing. It's becoming more and more advanced over a period of time. And more so when we have such a beautiful intellectual bridging between you and me, the evolution happens much faster. You would reckon that a good quality communication is based on the index of creative thoughts. So I'll begin the discussion on personality traits. We compared that with the basic elements such as oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, argon, helium, sodium, whatever. And the reason and the reason for doing so was we wanted to become conscious that, like, you cannot make hydrogen out of oxygen, you cannot make sulfur out of sodium, we cannot make argon out of helium. These traits are not replaceable. These traits are not replaceable. If you go to a surgeon, and you want to do some skin grafting done, they will not easily accept anybody else's skin. So they will take a part of the skin from some other part of the body, maybe the hidden part of the body, which can easily be covered up by the dresses that we wear, and then replace that. There's a compatibility. So skin of A cannot be replaced by skin of B. Okay, more or less they will not like to do that. Similarly, a trait, expectancy, trait quality, trait behavior cannot be replaced by some other trait. There might be a little bit of exceptions, such as we have sucrose against sugar, we have jaggery against sugar, we have Ajinomoto against salt. The minor way corrections are required. Okay, but otherwise, more or less, it is safe to say a trait has an elemental behavior and it cannot be substituted by any other trait. That gives them a colossal identity. That gives each trait a colossal identity. As if that was a part of the nature and that was a necessary thing for this element, this personality trait to be born. Now there is a social, cultural, spiritual fabric of every society. In that context, I could say the Western personality concepts and the Eastern concepts of personality are little different. By virtue of the same, the kind of ingredients that you will have for your social, professional performance in the Western world are going to be slightly different than what we have in the Eastern communities, especially Japan and India, to some extent China. But China is a different governance. So although it's an Eastern country, I won't say all the philosophies and theories are Easternized. But Japan and India are outstanding examples. So if the number of traits for our performance and excellence in living are, let's say, for a certain person with a certain socioeconomic, cultural denomination in India, if he requires 50, probably in America, he will require 5 less or 10 less. The reason is in the Eastern culture, we are measured on number of more accounts than in the Western. This is a generic statement I am making. This is not to highlight something or to de-highlight something. This is a generic statement I am making. Obviously, there'll be, if you decide to do that, you will find more exceptions than not to this generic theory, because we have decided to find the exceptions. So these traits are elemental, they cannot be substituted by each other, and they measure. If it is such an irrepressible part of the creation, nature's creation, these traits are nothing but our reaction, our behavioral, our mental reaction to the universe of living. The basic reason why traits at all are there is that it is our defense and aggression mechanism to fight out the vagaries of nature. A very specific, detailed discussion we'll have on this, the creation of the trait itself, in some other context. In the current flow, that is more of a research subject than an operative subject. Currently, my idea is to concentrate on the operative part, because I'm conscious so many young people are listening, so many young people have tuned in, and therefore it is necessary for me to first deal the operative part. And once they understand the feasibility, the operative feasibility of all the personality traits, probably they would by themselves get interested in the research. Why does this happen? Here, our understanding is how and what. What are traits and how do they function? So may I run you through the number of traits? It'll be interesting to recall a couple of episodes behind. We had talked about the precarious position of a loving parent, in his inability to describe the child or bring out the measures on which he could describe the child. He was in a very precarious position where we had maintained, probably if the parent speaks about 4 or 5 qualities, that's enough. Parent plus grandfather, grandmother, they speak about 7 to 8, that's more than enough. Because researches and fine knowledge, all the societies are deprived of. Because society is actually by definition, society is a commonplace belief and commonplace understanding and common reactions to something. That's what we call culture. A very common reaction to something. Very standard reaction to something. Very typical reaction to something. That's what society is made of. So society, by virtue of being a society, is always deprived of the intellectual recreation, such as research or discovery. So from 5, it's an arduous task for me to impress on you. You had a list of 5, 6, and now we're getting into a much, much larger list. Okay, you have to hold your breath to count the numbers. Action leader. I'm reading alphabetically. So first I'll read A traits. A traits are action leader, adaptable, agreeable, ambitious, analytical, approachable, artistic, assertive, authoritative. Then 9 of those falling in A traits meaning starting with alphabet A. B. Bargainer, beautiful, oblique handsome, bold. C. Traits, calculative, careful, commercial, communicator, compassionate, competitive, conceptual, confident, cool headed, creative, critical. There are about 11. D traits, definitive, democratic, determined, diplomatic, disciplined, dramatist, dreamer, dutiful. Dutiful. Okay, beautiful we have already covered. Dutiful. Those are D traits. E traits, ego free, empathetic, energetic, enterprising, entertainer, esteemed, experienced, experimenter, extrovert, finisher, frank. A little bit of qualified mindset is required when you tick these traits. For example, in case of experienced, okay, you will require a bit of a carefulness to qualify that. More of that later. We'll now go to F traits, finisher, frank. G traits, games free, generous. H, human leader, humanitarian. I, imaginative, initiator, inquisitive, inspired, intelligent, intuitive. J traits, just. K, knowledgeable. L, learner, listener, loyal. M, materialist, mature, moralist, moral leader, motivated. O, observer, open, opportunist, optimist, original. P traits, parent, patient, peace loving, philosophical, positive. Q traits, qualitative. R, rational, realistic, revolutionary, risk taker, romantic. Salesman, S traits, salesman, scholar, self leader, selfless, shrewd, social, soft, sophisticated, spiritual, sporting, stable, systematic. T traits, teacher, team member, tenacious, thought leader, thoughtful, tolerant, truthful. U traits, unbiased. V traits, visionary. W traits, wise. Parents, dream, think, work for this little heart of theirs all through. They work ceaselessly, they work sleeplessly. They work sleeplessly, they work ceaselessly. They work with sacrifice, they work immaterially. They don't count the expense. And then we have a situation that if the parent has to talk about child, he will struggle to talk about maybe 3, 4, 5 qualities of child. So what are we talking about? Its analogy with respect to health industry is dangerous, serious, almost stage 3, stage 4. Imagine the doctor tests only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and doesn't test other 95, or that number that is relevant to their industry. So what is the amount of chances, or what is the level of chance that he is taking with respect to the ignorance and with respect to the the non-combative posture he has taken with respect to a certain dangerous disease that the person's body may be carrying. Non-combative. He's got a non-combative posture. He's got a non-combative posture because he has not studied those danger inwardly, upwardly mobile, inwardly, upwardly mobile, not so benign activities. Its analogy with health industry is almost morbid, looks morbid. So where are we? We are parents. We are senior brothers and sisters at home. And we don't have a provision to record the performance and the abilities of the child in more than 5. So what are we looking at? We are looking at a closed eye examination of the world. We're looking at the world with closed eyes. We're trying to do the most improbable things, not look at opportunities. To being a human being. We are just at the starting point of discovering the dangers of our ineffective modeling of our own life. And I'm sure as we progress, you will have more and more salvos being delivered appropriately at the right time. You have time to go, you have time in hand to make it better. May we meet again. So we meet again next time to discuss further personality